All right, this is Chad for episode 6 of Drawn and Cornered. Thank you, Kevin, for filling the gap by putting out an extra video before I got my button gear and created my own. You brought Henry into it, and I appreciate that because it made me think a little bit about a conversation we'd had earlier about how do we create integrity in our children, specifically the two boys that we're trying to raise. It's something that I felt my parents instilled in me, but I don't know specifically how they did it. I was a big time rule follower going through school, never disrespect my parents in any way. I was a bit of a stick in the mud. Some of those things that I regret a little bit because I feel like I could have stretched outside of who I was, and I don't know. I think there's value in maybe getting in trouble a little bit, especially as a young man, partially because of the fact that it gives you some perspective in how to break the rules as you get older also. Nothing's really accomplished of any meaning in this world without breaking the rules a little bit. And if you don't do that as a kid, and again, as a young man, I think your scope and capability of doing that as you get older with any sort of savvy maybe gets diminished. So I kind of wish that I would have been better about that. But ultimately, I was pretty good. And I'm hoping to find a way to instill similar traits in my son so that he has rebellion, but in a good way. That he's not necessarily out there, doing heroin at 14. This is not the sort of rebellion I'm looking for, but that he pushes back a little bit, that he knows boundaries, but he also knows places where he can exploit those boundaries a little bit. It brings me to a point that we had discussed from another friend of mine that had a child who lied to him for the first time. A little girl, she's only, I want to say, maybe 4 years old. She told her first lie, and they didn't realize it. She had gotten away with it, and it wasn't until later that evening that she came back, and whether it was the guilt of it or just kind of realizing what she had done, she came back to them and told them the truth, told them that she had told a lie, and placed them in a really, really tricky spot because one, you want to have consequences for what she did wrong, but by that same token, you also don't want to punish her so harshly that she's unwilling to come forward and tell the truth, especially since she technically got away with it. So I'm sort of mentally trying to grapple with this idea of how do we handle this. And my son is still a good way off of any of these type of lessons, as he can't even speak right now, or it's just really a lot of gibberish. But what do you do to make sure that the punishment fits as a sizable consequence to make sure that they don't break the rules, but also that they're confident that they will be treated fairly if they tell you the truth about it. I talk to my wife a lot about how we plan on handling this and the fine line that I think you need to walk between maintaining the discipline that consequences have, while also encouraging free discussion about what they've done wrong. And it's going to be an interesting trip. And I was also telling my wife that I'm pretty glad that you, Kevin, are going to be walking a similar path at about the same time. So constructively, we might be able to sort of put our brains together and come up with something that works, and maybe test different methods in sort of an A-B type of proposal situation. So perhaps we can come out on the opposite end, learning a little bit from each other, and maybe best practices will be utilized because of it. So I look forward to continuing conversations. I really look forward to this channel picking up and getting advice from other fathers about how to raise a son with integrity, how to raise a son that is willing to speak the truth, even when the consequences are headed their way and may not be, may be pretty dramatically difficult to get through. That is the sort of son that would make me extraordinarily proud if he's willing to take his lashes as long as he can be honest about it. That's pretty incredible.